Buenos tardes. Advertencia. La historia que voy a leer puede contener escenas o contenido que algunas personas pueden encontrar inquietante. Este video puede no ser apropiado para personas menores de 13 años y puede incluir violencia intensa, situaciones sexuales, lenguaje grosero y diálogo sugerente. Se recomienda encarecidamente la discreción del espectador. Gracias. Hello, my diamonds. It is that time. We have finally reached 10/31/20. Welcome to the 9th episode of Diamond Reads. Trust me, this is one of the most horrific. These are some of the most horrific stories I've ever had to narrate. Most people said I wouldn't survive, but let's put that to the test, shall we? After this day, I will no longer be known as Diamond Rebel Spartan Zero, but I will then be known as the Shadow Diamond. Things are going to change after 10/31/20. Things are going to change. And trust me, you will see a major difference. Anyway, I did say I was going to read Sweet Apple Massacre and Dipper Goes to Taco Bell, so this is what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to read this. Believe me, I've heard this story several times before, and trust me, this story is really, really fucked up. Is it really that big of a surprise, to be honest? No, it isn't. But for the parts that are really messed up, I'm gonna censor it a little bit. But then there will be parts where I'll be reacting to the really messed up shit, but you won't see any rage until the end of the episode because I don't want to give away any spoilers. Okay, let's begin, shall we? This is Sweet Apple Massacre. Big Macintosh surveyed the many apple trees that made up Sweet Apple Acres. It was nearly apple buck season once again, and it looked as though they would be having a bumper harvest this year. He nodded, satisfied. His sister Applejack walked up beside him. "Woo, boy, howdy. I sure am glad you ain't injured this time, Big Macintosh," she said. "Why, there's even more apples on them trees than last year." "Yup," Big Macintosh replied, in his characteristic manner. "Them's a lot of apples." Applejack was silent for a moment, enjoying the feel of the slight breeze against her blonde mane. "Say, I don't suppose you've seen Apple Bloom anywhere, have you? I've been looking for her all day, and she ain't nowhere to be found." Big Macintosh shook his head. "Sorry, sis. Can't say I have. Darn. That silly filly's probably gone off somewhere with her friends. I just hope she ain't getting herself into any mischief, or else there'll be hate to pay." "Don't you go worrying yourself, Applejack," he replied. "I'm sure he's perfectly fine. But anyway, I need to go back to the barn. I gotta go and press some apples for my home-brewed apple cider. I hoof-picked a few apples earlier especially, all nice and plump and ripe, and they ain't gonna press themselves." Applejack laughed. "You sure do love your cider, don't you? Just make sure Apple Bloom don't get her hooves on it again. We all know what happened last time. Big Macintosh chuckled along with her sister. Yup. The large red pony trotted back to the barn and gently closed the door. He opened the trap door with his mouth and went down the steps into an old, disused apple cellar. Usually it was just filled with junk, scrap metal, old worn out ploughs, old rope, and various other bits and bobs that have outlived their usefulness. Big Macintosh often came down here when he wanted to get away from the world, to withdraw for a little while for some peace and quiet. Today was different, however. The old rope, at least, had found a new use. Because in the cellar space were Apple Bloom and her fellow cutie mark crusaders. Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo, bound and gagged, propped up against the wall. Three pairs of scared round eyes looked up at Big Macintosh as he approached. "Now then, you three fillies," he said, placid as ever. "Y'all need to learn a lesson. You need to learn not to mess around with Big Macintosh. All I want is some peace and quiet," he said, looking directly at Apple Bloom. The little red-haired filly cowered under his glaze. "All I want is a quiet life without you, all you cutie mark crusaders running around the place, making with the noise. When I finish with y'all, there gonna be no noise from you ever again." As Big Macintosh approached, Scootaloo flapped her wings, struggling to get off the ground. Big Macintosh laughed and grabbed one of her wings. He twisted at first, slow, watching the pain visibly grow in her eyes, but then tore hard, smiling slightly when he heard the snap and the muffled whimper that came from Scootaloo. He then threw her to the ground. "Your wings are useless, you silly filly," he said pleasantly. He then went to a toolbox and took out a rusty knife with a jagged blade and dropped it in front of the three fillies. "I'm going to take off those gags now," he said. "The first one of you to scream gets their tongues cut out." He took off Sweetie Belle's gag first. She looked up at him with terror, but managed to stay quiet. Next was Scootaloo. She let out a strangled whine and was breathing heavily, still in horrendous pain from her broken wing, but managed to resist the temptation. Finally, he removed the gag from his sister Apple Bloom. She stared at him with large, round eyes, filled with fear and incomprehension. This was Big Macintosh, after all, her big brother, and the gentlest of souls, wasn't he? Surely this was just a horrible joke, but she had seen what he had done to Scootaloo's wing, and it was definitely no joke. She took a deep breath. "Applejack!" Big Macintosh shoved his hoof in Apple Bloom's mouth, silencing her scream. He sighed and shook his head. "I told you not to scream, Apple Bloom. You should listen to your big brother." I'll scream and scream again, and Applejack will hear, and Apple Bloom said falteringly. "You know, I kinda hope you do. After all, I still ain't forgiven Applejack for that injury she gave me last Apple Book season. If you want Applejack to join y'all down here, scream away. I, for one, would welcome her company. But now, to business." Big Macintosh picked up the knife and loomed over the cowering Apple Bloom. He pinned her down with a powerful hoof and stuck the knife into Apple Bloom's mouth. Sweetie Belle vomited at the sight, the thick yellow chunks and acidic-smelling liquid splattering heavily on the floor. Scootaloo managed not to be sick, but rather gasped and sobbed and choked with panic. Big Macintosh forced open Apple Bloom's mouth and with some effort cut out her tongue. Apple Bloom tried to scream, but her mouth was too full of blood, so it was more of a muted gurgle. After a short while, she collapsed, tears streaming from her eyes, falling unconscious from the shock and the pain. Big Macintosh then took the tongue and rolled it in the puddle of putrid vomit on the floor. He smiled at Scootaloo. "You hungry?" Scootaloo shook her head vigorously and cast him a defiant glare. "If Rainbow Dash was here, she would kick the crap out of you, you maniac!" Big Macintosh shrugged. "Well, she ain't. Anyway, I wouldn't be so sure about that. Rainbow Dash ain't as tough as she likes to make out." He shoved the vomit-covered tongue into Scootaloo's mouth and used his hoof to clamp her mouth shut. Don't you go trying to spit it out now, he said calmly with a little laugh, and the filly struggled and squirmed. Didn't your mother ever tell you how important it is to chew your food? Scootaloo closed her eyes and flapped her one good wing desperately, eventually swallowing Apple Bloom's tongue. Big Macintosh, still holding the writhing Scootaloo down with his strong hooves, then mounted the orange filly and slid his... Oh god, I'm not even gonna get into detail. I'm not even gonna get into detail about what's going on here. And this happened for several minutes while Sweetie Belle watched, trembling with revulsion. Apple Bloom was still out cold, blood pouring from her torn up mouth. Cutie Mark Crusaders violate victims, Big Macintosh said with tender mockery as he... Well, you know what he did to Scootaloo, followed by a gentle chuckle. Guess y'all found your purpose in life now. Your special talent is getting screwed. Yup. Eventually, he withdrew from Scootaloo and gripped her head tight and repeatedly punched her hard with a hoof in the face, causing her nose to shatter and split with blood. He scooped up some of the blood and some of Sweetie Belle's vomit with his tongue and held it in his mouth so that it mixed with his saliva, and then brought it to his mouth close to Scootaloo and spat the rank mixture into her mouth. He clamped his hoof over her mouth and held her nose until she gagged and eventually had no choice but to swallow. As Scootaloo retched and spat and cried, he turned to Sweetie Belle. He grabbed her easily as she was too shocked and traumatized to respond. And with apparent amusement, she rammed her horn up Scootaloo's ass. The horn was too big and hard, so the skin around Scootaloo's area, basically the ass, so the skin around Scootaloo's ass ripped and blood and fecal matter first trickled and then poured profusely down onto Sweetie Belle's face, as well as the urine as Scootaloo wet herself. You keep doing that, Sweetie Belle, he said. The unicorn carried on pushing her horn up down there with Scootaloo. The unicorn carried on pushing her horn down there up Scootaloo, slowly but surely. Her normally well-groomed pink and purple mane was now a stained and reddish-brown, glistening with the wetness of piss and blood. If you stop, I'll come over there and get creative. I may seem a bit dense, but I'm actually quite a creative stallion, you know? Big Macintosh said with a wink. Yup. He went to Apple Bloom, and then... Oh, God, I'm not even gonna get into detail. What the fuck is this? While this happened... God, I need some help. So he went to another knife, one sharp and shiny, sliced open her flank, causing her glistening intestines to flop out wetly on the floor. He glanced over and was pleased to see that Sweetie Belle was still using her horn to... Oh, dear God! Dear God! As her face was now completely covered in blood, piss, and shit. He turned his attention back to Apple Bloom and scooped up her crimson entrails and wrapped them around her neck, still doing God knows what. And with his front hose, he pulled and pulled until it was wrapped so tightly around Apple Bloom's neck that it broke her windpipe. She was now surely dead, but Big Macintosh continued, "Oh my God!" until her body began to lose form and collapse into a quivering and amorphous mass of fur and blood and flesh. The perineum had fallen away, leaving a single red and raw gaping void. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. This is disgusting. And then he discarded his baby sister's carcass as though she were nothing more than a rotten apple core. He then took the knife and grabbed Sweetie Belle and tossed her aside. He forced himself into... Oh, come on! Come on! And then took the knife and then cut from her in a sweeping motion up to her belly, and then all her innards fell out. He then grabbed her head, twisted it, and tore it clean off, using his immense strength. And, oh, God! Oh, my God! Okay. I'm about to start losing it soon. I'm not vomiting though. That's a good sign. Okay, Sweetie Belle was the last remaining Cutie Mark Crusader. She was herself barely conscious, overcome with a nauseous stench of blood, piss and shit that covered her horn and her face. Big Macintosh pinned Sweetie Belle down with his hoof and plunged the knife into her green eye and twisted, causing vitreous fluid to dribble out onto the handle. After that, Sweetie Belle let out a throaty whine and involuntarily... Oh my God! You know what? I can't read most of this because some of these things have a lot of nasty stuff in it. Yeah. He withdrew the knife and did the same thing to the other eye, each time holding her tight and sticking his hoof into her mouth to silence her agonized screams. Oh God! He licked the vitreous fluid that had leaked onto the knife, and then methodically began cutting and hacking at her front left hoof using the rusty knife. The knife was quite blunt, so it took a Herculean effort to get through the skin, bone, and cartilage. But eventually, the bone splintered, and the leg came off. He did the same to the other legs until all four were amputated and nothing remained but bloody stumps, with slimy white ligament and broken bone shards hanging out. At some point, Sweetie Belle had passed out, the overwhelming pain too much for her to bear. He then used the knife to gouge out her left eye, and then, oh my God! Oh my God! Why? Why? Oh God. So after all that, after he did that, he twisted Sweetie Belle's neck, and after going all through all that disgusting stuff, he cracked open her skull with a swift stamp on the hoof, and then bent down and ate some of the exposed brain, taking care to spit out a few fragments of skull bone that got mixed in as he chewed. It was warm and slimy and tough and stuck to the back of his throat. He swallowed and then, oh God, why? He took one of Sweetie Belle's attached legs and shoved it. Oh God. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh my God. Oh my God. Why? Oh God. But now all three were dead. Oh God. So after all that, so he killed. I'm not gonna even remotely get into detail about everything that happened, but basically, he killed them all for what? Just for some fucking peace and quiet? God damn. It was done. Big Macintosh will finally get his peace and quiet. Big Macintosh, you down there? It was Applejack. He looked at the disfigured corpses of the three fillies, all now barely recognizable as the oh-so-sweet Cutie Mark Crusaders, and realized he felt strangely unsatisfied. It had all been a bit too quick and easy. Now Applejack, that would be a challenge. She was Ponyville's best athlete after all. She even had the prize pony of Ponyville trophy to prove it. And of course, he still hadn't forgiven her for that injury. Oh God. Oh God. Hey, Big Mac, I said, are you down there? Came Applejack's lilting voice. Again, this time more insistent. Big Macintosh replied serenely, I sure am, sis. Hey, come down here a minute. I got something to show you. Sure thing. What is it? It's a surprise. Oh boy, I sure do love surprises. Something real nice, I bet. Something real nice? Big Macintosh looked at the mangled, mutilated remains of the Creedy Mark Crusaders, and his lip curled into a thin smile. Yup. Okay, I just need a minute to process what the fuck did I just read. I mean, well, all I can say is thank God I was able to read this without suffering any mental trauma, and thank God I was able to read this without throwing up. But this is some really disgusting shit. I'm just letting you know right now. This is some of the most disgusting things I have ever read. But the episode's not over yet. The episode's not over yet, because I'm still gonna go to Dipper Goes to Taco Bell. Yeah, so I'm gonna go. I already finished reading the first one, which I guarantee is much worse. Well, I'm gonna go read Dipper Goes to Taco Bell. Pray for me, and by the time I'm finished with this, I'm gonna start wishing I have never read such a horribly written story. Okay, get ready to do this. Okay, get ready to see some really disgusting stuff. Okay, it was a normal day in Gravity Falls, Oregon. Well, as normal as Gravity Falls gets anyways. Dipper Pines was reading his book, and Mabel, his twin sister, was wondering what he was doing. Dipper, are you gonna keep your nose buried in that strange book of yours all summer? You gotta go out, have an adventure, Mabel exclaimed. Okay, stop. You gotta listen. As you may have guessed, this is not the actual story. Just hear me out. Please, for the love of God, hear me out. Your life depends on it. Okay, I'm reading a note from someone who, like, reposted the story. You probably heard rumors about this story, and you came here looking for it. Be lucky you came here. The rumors are all true. Okay, this person says, and I quote, I just read The Real Dipper Goes to Taco Bell, and I'm scarred by it. For life. I'm never going to Taco Bell for one thing. Don't you dare read it. It's fucking horrible. Okay. I actually found out something else about Dipper Goes to Taco Bell. But here's the thing. I actually found out that it was like one of the worst things that was ever written. Okay. I think I found it so far. Yeah, it was a normal day in Gravity Falls, Oregon. Well, as normal as Gravity Falls gets anyways. Dipper Punch was reading his book, and Mabel, his twin sister, was wondering what he was doing. Dipper, are you going to keep your nose buried in that strange book of yours all summer? You got to go out. Have an adventure. Mabel exclaimed. Not now, Dipper said quietly. I'm trying to decode this. He was looking at a cryptogram that said XSLFA QBE QXZLYBII. Dipper was officially stumped. He could not figure out what it meant, and it seemed very mysterious to him. Uncle Stan is going to take us to the diner for lunch, Dipper, Mabel exclaimed. Dipper, however, was not in the mood for the diner. He was publicly humiliated the last time he went, and he thought the food wasn't very good anyway. Mabel, I don't want to go to the diner, Dipper said solemnly. I want to go somewhere else. But there's really nothing else in town, unless you count the Taco Bell near the forest, Mabel replied. Taco Bell? Dipper's ears perked up. He had never eaten at a Taco Bell before. And ever since last week, he had a craving for Mexican food for some reason. Why don't we go to Taco Bell today? Dipper asked. Yeah, Taco Bell? Uncle Stan questioned. Why do you want to go there? It smells like the bathroom when it gets clogged. I had my heart set on pancakes, Mabel moaned. Listen, you can go to Taco Bell if you want to, but don't come crying to me when you smell like expired onions. Fine, I will, Dipper said harshly. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Uncle Stan said. But as he was exiting the mystery shack, the door hit him on the way out. Uncle Stan was laughing. So anyways, Mabel and Uncle Stan went to the diner while Dipper tried to find the Taco Bell. He had brought with him his book and a couple bucks, but finding the Taco Bell was harder than he had previously thought. He had been looking around town for what seemed like days. The mystery book wasn't helping him either. until he saw a flicker of a sign in the forest. He went into the forest. Why would there be a Taco Bell in the forest? Dipper asked himself. After hiking for about an hour, Dipper finally got to the Taco Bell. But it sure didn't look like any Taco Bell he'd ever seen. It was surrounded by a barrage of giant oak trees in an open field completely different from the rugged terrain of the Oregon forest. The open field was covered with at least 3 layers of pine needles, which got the attention of Dipper. He stuck his hand into the pine needles. Ow! Dipper shouted. A pine needle poked him. It hurts! The restaurant, Taco Bell, looked like a silo, sort of. Well, it was very cylindrical. The outside had rusty picnic tables. And it looked like no one used them at all. Dipper walked up to the restaurant's door. Should I go in there? Dipper asked himself. I'm starting to have second thoughts. Why, there's a small, desolate Taco Bell in this forest, miles from the nearest road. But I guess it's my only option. Mabel and Uncle Stan are probably done with lunch right now. And they were. Mabel wondered why Dipper hadn't come back yet, but Uncle Stan didn't give a damn. So Dipper entered the restaurant, but he was relieved to see that the interior was normal. Except for its high ceiling. There were also no customers inside, but Dipper thought that was normal, considering how the franchise was so isolated. He went up to the counter. There was only one cashier working the registers, a very old, slightly deaf, bored out of his skull cashier. Dipper decided what he wanted to order. He then approaches the register. Excuse me, we only got tacos, the cashier interrupted. Okay, I guess I'll have a taco then, Dipper said. What'd you say? The cashier yelled. I said I want a taco, Dipper yelled back. Okay then, the cashier said. He went in the back for a few minutes. When he came out, he was carrying Dipper's taco. That'll be $1, the cashier said. Dipper gave him the money and went to sit down at the least grimiest table. He bit into the hot, spicy, juicy taco filled with thick, pure meat, mild, tantalizing black beans, and sour, fluffy, sour cream. He enjoyed the single bite of that perfectly cooked taco and still tasted it in his mouth as he swallowed it. But as he was about to bite into it a second time, he felt a churning movement inside his body, something he had felt often. Uh-oh, Dipper said, then rushed to find the lavatory. Man, that really went through me, Dipper said to himself. For some reason, the bathrooms were hidden in the corner, far from the counter, and far from the table he was sitting at. When he walked in, he found the bathrooms were surprisingly clean for a fast food restaurant. And Dipper found this suspicious, and all the stalls were full, and no one was using the urinals. But right on cue, someone walked out of one of the stalls. Dipper didn't pay much attention to who was walking out, but he was wearing all black and had a plastic bag with him. He used the bathroom in the nick of time. He finished his taco and went home. Oh, God. Oh, God. This story kind of sucks. I mean, I did find a really inappropriate version, the original version, but I had to find the less inappropriate version so that way YouTube wouldn't come after my ass for it. However, I did, prior to making this episode of Diamond Reads, I did, however, read the original version, and I gotta say, it's really fucked up. I mean, we all know what happens. The taco is intricately described. Dipper eats it, and then immediately has to go to the bathroom. He gets diarrhea and didn't get there on time, so he ends up shitting his pants. When he's about to leave, he notices that he's got a hard-on from this. He starts, oh God, he starts jerking it, eventually using his shit. It gets worse and worse until oh my God. After all that, he starts bleeding to death. Mabel comes around to find him, sees his dead body in the bathroom, covered in his own everything. Oh my God. There's a lot of necrophilia in this. This is fucking disgusting. There's even vomit in this because we couldn't stop we couldn't even stop at shit, semen, or blood. We had to get vomit too. Then she gets murdered, brutally murdered. She gets fucking murdered. She's slowly cut open, scalped, and dismembered. Once she's done being murdered, she and Dipper get turned into tacos and are served to another character named Seuss. Wow. This is without a shadow, pun intended, a fucking shadow of a doubt. Some these are the worst stories I've ever read. I'm quite sure that now I'm brain damaged after being exposed to these fucking half-ass stories written by those vapid cunts. You cannot be fucking serious right now. Out of all the episodes of Diamond Reads I produced, never in my life have I ever seen anything as bad as this. I mean, you literally have necrophilia in this story. You get what I'm saying? That's holy shit, that's bad. That is fucking awful. I'm honestly surprised that the original author didn't get fucking arrested. This is the most disgusting shit I've ever read. Well, the only good thing about it is that, well, thank God I made it out alive, and thank God I made it out without throwing up. Thank God I didn't have to fucking vomit. I mean, I'm not even gonna call it, this is not even close to a fucking story. This is just disgusting. Everything about this story is fucking disgusting, and I hate it so fucking much. For those who like, I'm quite sure that even before I read this story, I had people telling me stuff like, "Oh my God, dude, you're going to die," and I'm also hearing reactions like petrified screams before people end up hanging up the phone. Now I know why they were trying to warn me. Like, holy crap, that's bad. That is so bad. Anyway, I was gonna rage, but I'm like so pissed to throw shit. I'm like way too disgusted to throw shit. I'm just like really pissed off at the fucking author. Part of the grammar and part of the narration's method, part of the way that you narrated the story makes you look like a fucking 6-year-old kid read this and wrote this, followed by some other adults who are into fucking porno fix. Well, that's all I really have to say about this. So, if I had to give this story an overall rating, I would definitely say 0 out of 10 for both stories. Would never, ever read again. That was the 8th and special episode of Diamond Reads, and I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this, because I know for a full-on fact I really fucking didn't. So, happy Halloween, everyone. I guess I'll see you in the next episode, and I am out of here. These stories were fucking horrible.
Hey, stop! Why? I just don't get it. I always catch you fuckers watching this sick shit. This is sickening.